ころで声が大空を舞うのはいいが、それをキャッチするのはどうやるんだ？
いっけねえ、もう一台必要だったわ。てかあえて黙ってたでしょそれ。最初から2台って言うとみんな作ってて心折れるから。てへ。
The ending of an era has come and gone. Yesterday marked the finale conclusion of Dr. Stone, episode 24, Voices Over Infinite Distance. And normally I would write a script out, sort of kind of get my thoughts all together, and then, go ahead and record this thing, but I wanted to go into this actually raw so y'all can get kind of like my raw emotional kind of effect and just be like an honest conversation from me to y'all in terms of what I thought about this whole entire last episode though. And I do have a little announcement to make, and make sure you stay tuned for this whole entire episode review, because I do got a little small announcement to make. Or actually it's kind of bigger or whatever though. But anyway, I got an announcement to make at the very end of the episode review, so make sure to tune in for that though. But if you haven't already watched my episode 23 review over Dr. Stone, you can go ahead and click that card in the corner and check that video out, and then come back and check this one though. Man, I gotta say, this episode, it just felt like a really good, solid conclusion to everything they've been doing for Dr. Stone for all these 24 episodes. And if you've been watching this show weekly, it's been for the past 6 months, the span of half of a year. And man, this has been a crazy joyride. In this last episode, oh man, I'm glad they reiterated and hit back upon one of my most favorite arcs of this whole entire anime. And yeah, I just got quite a bit of stuff to say about this episode. So without any further ado, let's dive straight up into this last episode review of Dr. Stone.
おお、センク、そのレコードっつうのは音を閉じ込めれるってことなのか？
でも音なんてつかめもしないんだよ。みじんもわからない。どうやって？
レコードの仕組みはアホほど簡単だ。いいわな。まあ思いつきはあの親父かもしんねえが、こんなしょうもねえ真似すんのはよ。
ゼロに達して今をかけて流れる赤い血のよ、背を引いて殻を割って咲いた花の模様をつなげてし、筆を持って取り戻してく命、目に見えないルレがリコリコルを探しに行く。
So starting off at the very beginning of the episode, we get to see Senku and the rest of the group. They basically created that cell phone tower, and they were trying to use this as a way of communication for them to be able to fight back against Tsukasa Empire with basically like intelligence. So if you're able to communicate with each other across long distances, that definitely gives you a huge one-up over your enemy though. However, Senku failed to kind of tell everybody that, hey, you know what, we actually going to have to create a second tower in order to actually, use the cell phones efficiently. Everybody just fell out on their backs like, what the heck, man? Like, you had us working on this one tower, and then you saw how long it took to weave that gold thread that long and to get that copper wire twisted around that thing in such a way. They were like, oh man, now we gotta go through this whole mess again. And then they were like, oh shoot. So a lot of them sort of kind of started to, lose a little bit of their motivation though. But anyway, they did like a small little test and basically did like a big old core that went from like the heart of the village all the way to where Senku's scientific base is at. And then you had Chrome over here who was about to talk to the microphone on one side, and you had Rui all the way over there on the other side though. And then you had Gimro, out of all people, that actually sort of kind of drop a tease in there and said, hey, Chrome, what are just going to be your first words in terms of saying something very impressive over the microphone in order to say to Rui, hey, basically you can finally express your feelings and tell her exactly how you feel. And then all the girls that were there over there next to Chrome, it was like Kohaku, Suika, as well as a few of the other girls. They basically had like big old ears, kind of listening, like, whoa, wait a minute, he feels like this? Oh shoot, let's tune in. Let's see how all this mess goes down though. And then Chrome was just kind of like self-reflecting on it, and then he was like, well, you know what, you kind of do have a point. And he's like, Rui, science is amazing. And I was like, I was like, dang, dude. And then all the other girls kind of like just like slapped their hand on their forehead, and they were like, man, you really blew that mess. Like, you completely threw what we just said and threw that mess down in the trash, though. But it was a nice little comedic effect, though. But everybody was kind of shocked at this and seeing, you know, how basically they were able to actually communicate with each other over that long span of distance, even though they were using cords at that moment, though. But then Rui starts to mention something about something on the lines of bees, and how whenever they sting like a cemetery or like a gravestone, they're able to speak, you know, voices of the dead or something like that. And then Senkun was like, wait a minute. It was like, wait, something about that. It was something that she said in the lead up before that, though, where he was like, wait a minute, it's like, how do you know something about like a megaphone or something like that? And then essentially it led to the point where Gin was talking with Senkun and say, hey, you know what, 1 and 4, because it was actually Tale 14 that Rui actually knew about that from the 100 Tales, that, hey, you know what, 1 and 4, hey, that's your birthday. And it was like, your birthday. And then eventually they came down to the conclusion that, hey, Senkun needed to go to his dad's gravesite, and he found where his dad was ideally buried at, and he basically took up the tombstone. Man, he took this up like he didn't even hesitate for a moment, considering, you know, what he was basically doing now. But he pulled it up and said, you know what, he was like, he basically, you know, put 2 and 2 together with like the cryptic message that was within that 100-year tale, and he basically figured out that, hey, there's a time capsule within this stone. So basically, we need to break it in such a way where we're able to pull out whatever is in there, and it's probably the most likely glass. And Senkun was right about it, and he pulled it out. And eventually, when he took everything out of it, he was like, oh, you know what? This is a record player. And then Gin started looking over there at Senkun and was like, wait a minute. Did these people really honestly record their voices and put it on this piece of glass that's like shaped like a record disc or like a CD disc? And they were like, what the heck? And this right here definitely threw me for a loop, because I was like, dang, I surely was not expecting this within this episode like that. Like, to think they had the knowledge and the wherewithal to actually do this. And then this is where one of my most favorite scenes or one of my most favorite concepts about this whole entire episode is then we started to see a little back and forth motion between events that happened in the past, and then they jump back to the present of, you know, how they're kind of responding to what they're trying to do with the record player and everything else. So we jump back to the past, and we get to see Senkun's dad along with the other founding fathers and I guess mothers of the village. And essentially, Senkun's dad came up with the conclusions like, hey, you know what? We should go ahead and try to find a way to record our voices. Because he found a bottle on the beach. And he's like, hey, you know what? If we can find a way to, you know, record our voices, record it on this glass, it can be preserved for a long period of time. And then, you know, the other people in there is like, yeah, you know what? That's a good idea. And so they started looking around and trying to, you know, get all the different materials they would need, like, you know, like a microphone to record the stuff and everything else. And overall, oh goodness, man, I just can't believe they even thought about doing this, because essentially from the way how a record player works, you basically, you know, talking, and it basically you have like, you know, like a needle, and you basically, you know, puncturing the glass. In this case, glass, but you know, in other cases, normally it's like a record disc or whatever, though. And they basically had to use a diamond to basically cut through that glass, because, you know, glass is, you know, very strong, and, you know, diamonds can cut glass. But anyway, when you're talking through the microphone, it kind of goes down into your spindle little player. It basically vibrates, and it leaves the vibrations on the disc preserved. So that way, if you basically replicate it, doing it in the reverse, you're able to actually hear what's coming off of that disc. So overall, I got to say, props up to Senkun's dad for being able to do this, because this way you're able to kind of you're basically able to actually get actual words to Senkun, because at first we were just getting it all through the tales of how, you know, of how Senkun basically was able to relate with his dad, but to actually be able to hear his voice for the first time like that in years, spanning like over a few thousand years, including the time that he was petrified and everything else. That was just so touching. It's such a really nice moment to the episode as a whole. So that was just something that I really appreciated within this episode. And, you know, throughout this event, you basically got to see, you know, the two basically talking about things in the past, how they're going to record it. and you got to see him in the present. So essentially, you know, Senku and the others started, you know, build like a record player in order to be able to play the stuff off of it. And then by the time they actually put together everything, they were starting to listen to it, and then the whole entire village went into shock because of, you know, them being able to actually listen to the founding fathers and mothers that basically established the village. And it was just during those moments where Senkun's dad was just talking to Senkun, it was just really touching, really awe-inspiring, and super motivating for him. And then not only did Senkun's dad basically do this for a message for him, he also did it for the case that if the village didn't necessarily accept them as, you know, like as a role leader or like a role model or like a leader of the village, which he is now. But to think that he might have had issues with it, which technically Senkun did for a good chunk of the series though, but I think he thought about that so far out in advance was, you know, pretty jaw-dropping at that as well though. And then essentially right after that, the big part of the episode for this, you know, with the CD part, was the fact that whenever you had none other than Diva Lillian, and she basically did a song. And oh my gosh, this woman got vocal cords like none other. Like, this is a very beautiful song. I really hope they drop this song somewhere like in its full entirety or something like that, because I honestly really like it when she sings. Like, she sings so good though. But, you know, just talking about this part as a whole, it just really brought, you know, everybody in the village to tears. They're like, whoa, it's like, because at this moment in time, I don't think anybody in this village actually, you know, experienced music to the degree like that, with singing and maybe a little bit of instruments kind of running in the background like that. And overall, I just gotta say, it was a really nice little touching moment within this episode.
Start again. If we want to be strong, have to believe that we can. Just taking one small step to hero, to make a change and start brand new. I'll be wishing for the same thing I always do. It's always you.
And oh gosh, man, this episode, I just can't stop reiterating on this though, but it was just so good. And then you just got to see like a series of montages of Senkun and how far he basically came from him progressing when he was first petrified, or when he was first brought into the village where he made that ramen for the people to help motivate him build stuff, to him healing Ruri with his sickness, to him creating the hydroelectric power, with him creating the light bulb, and then now leading to the construction of the cell phone tower. Senkun has accomplished a lot since he's been brought back within this new age of the Stone World. And just to think that, hey, you know what, within that one little CD track that Senkun's dad recorded, he was able to kind of relay all the different things that humanity has accomplished all throughout the years within that one little bit of a song, and say, hey, look, even though it may seem lost of everything that we basically did as humanity over the years, what really matters is what's in our hearts, because anything that we basically did before, we can always do again, because, you know, we're humans at heart, and we're basically going to overcome any trials though. And then that in itself, when the record was done playing, it motivated the whole entire village, to the point where, hey, now we feeling really pumped and motivated to make that second cell tower, and we're about to get ready to go to war with the Tsukasa Empire. So once they managed to overcome that last obstacle with the Tsukasa Empire, they say, hey, we're going to bring back everybody that was petrified from the original timeline. And we're going to bring everybody back. So all we gotta do is just overcome Tsukasa's army, and then we'll be all good and ready to go at this point though. So everybody was basically fired up at that moment though. And then we finally get to see Taiju and Yuzura, who were like only in like a few handful of episodes towards the very beginning of the series. So it was really nice to kind of see them again though. And yes, this does mark the moment where we are actually 1 year from that original timeline of whenever Senkun basically said, you know what, I gotta leave here, because if I get caught, you know, Tsukasa is gonna, you know, come after my neck once again though. So we're officially 1 year from that time point perspective though. But yeah, then you just get to see, all the different members of the Tsukasa army, and you saw somebody kind of listen in on them, and you get to see the faces of some new people that are going to be very important within this next upcoming arc. And then you get to end it with Hyoga basically saying, spring isn't that far off, and he's talking over there with Tsukasa, and it's like, hey, the final battle with Senku is near now, and things are about to get serious now, because now, that basically ends the whole entire arc for the communications arc, and basically you just have everybody gathered around back at Senku's base and say, you know what, hey, let's go ahead and get ready for war, because we're going to find a way to beat them somehow, some way. And he says this is exhilarating, and that's pretty much where the episode ends though. So overall, I really thought that this was a really good, solid episode. I liked it from beginning to end. I like the matter of the fact that they were able to touch back on one of my favorite arcs that was like the establishment arc of them, talking about Senku's father and how he was able to basically start the whole village up, and how they were able to manage to tie those events from the very get-go of what established the whole entire village to the point that Senku is now being the village chief and everything else though. So overall, I gotta say, recording this whole entire review series as a whole, it's been such an honor and such a privilege to be able to discuss my thoughts about what I thought about this episode as a whole. And to think I've been doing this for a whole entire half a year for the span of 24 episodes. Man, this has been a crazy good fun ride, and I just want to say thank you to all of y'all that been sitting here watching all of my reviews throughout this whole entire period of time. Y'all are the MVP, and this is officially the first anime review series that actually I started from beginning to end, and it's the first one to actually conclude though. So I just want to say congrats to y'all for being able to stick here with me and listen to my thoughts from beginning to end though. Now, that's not the only announcement, because at the very end of the episode, guess what's coming? Yes, season 2. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. So we do not have to wait for this anime to be able to get a second season, but it is confirmed we are getting a season 2. There's no word about when it's gonna drop. That's the real big question though, but we do know it's season 2. Is in the works and could possibly be in development. We just have to wait and see, with further news. So as we get closer to when Dr. Stone season 2 can announce, if they do announce or reveal, like the actual date of when it actually releases, I will drop an update video on my channel, since I have reviewed Dr. Stone before. So any kind of news updates that are major with Dr. Stone, you can expect me to drop a certain video out on my channel for that. So I'll keep y'all up to date on that. Now, the matter of fact that whenever Dr. Stone comes, would I be interested in reviewing a season 2 for this anime? Definitely yes, but it just depends on kind of what's going on in my life around that time and how many other things I'm currently reviewing, of whether or not I'll be able to actually squeeze this anime in as another review series though. But yeah, that is it on the news for season 2. And even though this is my last episode review over Dr. Stone, it is not going to be my last discussion over Dr. Stone, because yes, sometime in the near future, either like a week from now or maybe a few weeks from now, I don't think it might not be no more than 2 weeks from now though, but maybe somewhere in between a week or 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna actually release a discussion video of me along with Johnny, who y'all might have known. He's been like a guest on my channel for a few of my Dr. Stone reviews. Me and him are gonna sit down and basically give our final thoughts and discussions over the whole entire Dr. Stone anime as a whole. So be sure to look forward to that, and just make sure to hit the subscribe button and make sure to hit the bell button, so that way you can get notified of whenever that video does drop. You can also follow me on my social media links for my Twitter and my Facebook down in the description box below, so that way you can kind of keep up to date with whenever I do actually drop that video though. But yeah, make sure to tune in whenever I drop that video, because that one should be pretty good in itself though. But other than that, that is about it for this Dr. Stone review. So if you really like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to keep up to date on all things Dr. Stone that could be eventually dropped within the future, in terms of any kind of news updates, as well as my final discussion video at the very end of. But yeah, thank y'all so much for tuning in for this whole entire Dr. Stone anime review series. I couldn't have done it without y'all being able to listen here and watch, as I've been doing this from week to week though. So remember y'all, as always, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.
VS 司帝国本土決戦、ストーンウォーズの開戦だ。そそるぜこれは。
おはよう世界グモーニングウォー